Good afternoon and welcome to the December 15th, 2021 meeting of the PGCPS Board of Education Climate Change Action Plan Focus Work Group meeting. My name is Pamela Boozer Struther and I'm the District 3 Board of Education member, and I serve as the co-chair of this work group with parent volunteer Joseph Jakuda, representing the climate action parents of Prince George's County. I would like to thank Joseph, along with Kate Colzoni, David Smith, and Valerie Irvin, who do the work in between each of our meetings to set our agendas and help bring all of our data together. Today, we will be reporting on the subgroup work on our planned mission areas. We welcome all work group members, special guests, and the viewers of the meeting, and thank you for your dedication to this climate action work. You can review past recordings of meetings at pgcps.org/climate. I would like to call this meeting to order and ask for a motion and a second for approval of today's agenda.
So moved.
I second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Or abstentions? All right, thank you. The agenda is approved. Next, I ask for a motion and second for approval of the December 1st, 2021 meeting minutes.
I move they be approved.
Thank you.
I second.
Thank you. I think I heard David and Donald at the same time. Next, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, thank you so much. The minutes are approved. I'll start our meeting with a report on the status of the PGCPS action plan alignment with the Prince George's County Climate Action Plan. As you know, there's a Climate Action Commission that released a draft plan, and there's a month of public comment that closed on December 1st. And it's my understanding that municipalities and some other entities had through today, the 15th, to send in their comments and letters of support. And now the commission will be taking steps in terms of review and revisions. I had the chance last week to meet with Commission Chair Dawn Hawkins Nixon and Mary Abe, who is the director from the Prince George's County Department of Environment, who's managing this entire climate action plan process. And they supported a plan in collaboration with our work group that we can utilize their documents for our plan formatting and presentation of the recommendations. If you haven't spent time with that plan, they did an excellent job of using the way they presented it in print is very easy to digest and very clear, and presented with some what they called, these co-benefits of each of the recommendations that really hit on a lot of areas that we are looking at, like community health, quality of life, job creation. But of course, the major benefits are the carbon reduction and climate resilience aspects of the recommendations. And they've given us approval for full use of moving that document text into our document to give us that alignment framework, which I think will save us, one, a lot of time, and two, it shows that PGCPS was an official partner in the plan, and PGCPS is actually coded throughout the plan, although I would say we are working way beyond what the plan is asking of us, and we'll just be able to show that so clearly to the county council, to elected officials, organizations that we're working with. So I'm excited about that partnership, and they both had noted that they had some ideas about continued collaborations, and we're going to meet again soon on how we can support each other as these plans are adopted by the county council and by the Board of Education, and we move forward. So I just wanted to give everyone an update on on that and say that I am really proud of that collaboration that we'll be able to have with that team. So I know, the past couple of weeks have been very busy for our work group with the many subgroup meetings. And I really enjoyed the subgroup conversations and seeing our research reflected and start to emerge in these draft recommendations. I want to thank everyone for spending that time. And of course, the time you are going to be committing, in the near term around this plan draft. And so now I'm going to turn the agenda over to Joseph and Kate for review of our next actions and timeline and to guide us through the subgroup report outs. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Board Member Boozer Strother. Next up, we wanted to review the upcoming schedule. We're going to go into a little bit more depth today because it's not just our meetings at this point that we need to concern ourselves of. Our next meeting for a full work group is scheduled for January 19th. It's on Wednesday at 3:30. And that will be when we plan to conduct our initial review of a draft climate action plan. We're discussing whether or not to invite guests, what guest experts to invite onto the call for that. That same night is the first of the three Prince George's County Board of Education committee meetings. That would be the budget committee that night. We plan on introducing our work as a topic to all three of the committees. Budget first on the 19th, January 24th would be the academic committee, and then January 25th is the policy and governments committee. We feel we need to talk to all three committees because our work covers so many areas. Then January 27th is the Central High School budget hearing, is one of the 2 or 3 budget hearings that will be coming up, and that will also be another opportunity to discuss our work. Thank you for sharing that. After that, we're going to begin our public comment period for several weeks. We also plan on having, though unscheduled at this point, second student town hall, and then also a general public town hall. February 24th will be our hopefully final meeting to review the final draft. And then we plan on providing it to the Prince George's County Public Schools Communications Department for lack of a better word, beautifying the document. And we plan on providing it to the full Board of Education by March 17th so that we can have this all wrapped up in time to prior to Earth Day of which would be, I guess, April 22nd, 2022. So that is a tight timeline, but we've been working on a tight timeline thus far. And we've had a lot of good work with the sub work groups that we'll be hearing from, so we can probably make it. Are there any questions from the committee?
And Joseph, I'm just going to jump in for a second. I had meant to update this. The board has decided to do all of the budget hearings in Zoom virtually for increased participation and also because of COVID.
Okay. Hearing nothing else, shall we move on to the next topic? Are there any other announcements that we needed to make, Kate?
Not that I know of. Happy holidays to everyone, though.
Yes, happy holidays. Well, let us move into our first sub-work group. And I believe that will be, I would guess that would be Pamela, who will give us an update on buildings, construction, maintenance, and operations.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I just wanted to report out that I decided to delay that meeting due to some overlap of members and also gathering some additional information, and we'll pull that subgroup together ASAP. So if you are on that subgroup, watch for a Google poll from me to plan our time to continue that work.
Thanks. Are there any questions on that? Okay. Moving on to sub-work group 2, that is electricity, and that's one of the ones I was in charge of working on. And I guess we worked on some recommendations. The first one was something we didn't quite get our heads around, but have drafted some language that we are reviewing, and that is how to begin to procure all of our offsite electricity needs through 100% clean energy. There's some challenges with the way contracting is done and the reliance on brick packs. So we have some ideas that we're still sorting through in the work group and discussing through the Google Docs. The next topic was the recommendations with on-site solar. This is probably where we spent most of our time talking, and we essentially we're recommending so far that an holistic evaluation of solar potential for existing buildings to be conducted. And there's, I guess, a list of 9 different aspects of what would go into this whole holistic recommendation, including learning opportunities for students, demonstration products, benefits to disadvantaged communities, schedules of building replacement, using solar installation as part of roof replacement, canopy projects, pooling of projects, and examining any legislation that's impacting, especially HB 630. And then we also are recommending to evaluate funding opportunities as well. A few other topics we didn't quite get to, but have in our to be discussed online portion, or follow the evaluation of potential solar projects and funding options to install solar retrofit projects, and including language in RFPs for new schools that buildings be solar ready. We also want to look at offsite renewables through PPAs and other mechanisms. And we also thought we should start to look at the idea of battery backup power. We don't think that battery backup power is quite ready, but we did want to look at, for instance, expanding that to use it for use in lighting. And then we also wanted to look at the use of batteries from buses as well. And then also, and we didn't talk about this, but there were a lot of feedback from the population at large on load reduction efforts, and these are some things that came recommended and PGCPS is already doing, such as replacement of lights with LEDs, motion sensors, HVAC retrofits. So reducing load, or so-called negawatts. So that was the report out so far from the electricity group, and we have a few more things that we want to discuss online. Any questions? Anything I missed? Okay. And I think you have me up next for transportation as well. The bulk of our conversation was on bus electrification, which I guess would come as no surprise. Also, bus electrification was a very popular thing for us to do from the public surveys. Essentially, we were recommending a development of a strategy to begin replacing buses with electric, and we wanted to make sure that the time frame lined up with the resolution. So that would be 100% by 2040. We needed to make sure this was also conduct this in a sort of holistic fashion that looks at disadvantaged communities, that looks at the length of routes, looks at other factors that may impact what gets electrified first. Obviously, look at the different funding from DERA to the infrastructure bill to any sort of state funding like that may be coming down, other grant opportunities such as our WRI, and then also looking at the leasing options such as like Highland Electric, and also looking at the idea of vehicle to grid power. Apparently, my daughter is joining us for a moment. and so that was the bulk of the conversation. We also talked about the need to increase walking and biking. That one we didn't get into as much depth to, but we have some ideas to discuss over the, sorry. We've had all these meetings, and this is, I think, the first time I had a little munchkin roll in. The idea of having a walk to school campaign. There was a lot of comments in the survey about increasing crossing guards, bike share, working with the State Highway Administration, DP and WT. So we didn't really get to that as much, but those are things that were included in our conversation. We also talked about an anti-idling, but didn't really get into how we would go about dealing with the anti-idling from the current bus fleet. And then finally, I think it's fine. No. Next up was bus safety and amenities, because there's also this idea that if current students are every single bus could be electric, but if everyone has their parents taking them to school, then it's not going to really reduce our emissions. So looking at the bus amenities, making sure they're safe. And it sounded like from the conversation that PGCPS is doing a lot of good work already on that. But we included some recommendations to just sort of keep on that path. And we didn't really get to discuss the white fleet and telework policies, but those were also things that came out of the survey and we'll be discussing online. Any questions?
Yeah, I'm just going to make a comment. I think that sounds great, and that was interesting to hear some of the new data that came out of the survey that you were able to spend some time on. I look forward to hearing more.
Okay, and I guess I will turn it over to the food waste and food climate friendly food group.
Okay. Chloe, are you able to take us through this one?
Sure. Yes. So I'm trying to pull up our document from yesterday. Pamela, do you have that?
Yeah, I'll put that in the
Okay, thanks so
chat
much.
right now. Yeah.
Sure.
let me just
So,
make sure. Yeah, and
Donald,
anyone else could pull this up as well.
okay, thank you. Donald, Brianna, Board Member Boozer, Struther, and I met yesterday to continue to incorporate the feedback that we got from the session that we did a few weeks ago with Sarah Gillespie and Director Shorter on climate-friendly food and reducing food waste. And so you can see in this document here where we've kind of categorized the recommendations using the matrix that Kate provided, which was really helpful. Kate, thank you. Around like high impact versus effort. So some of the ideas that we had talked about, and we still have more to do. The group felt like we needed some expertise outside of the group for some of the recommendations specific to food waste. So we're still trying to reach out to Sarah to get to some of those. But in general, we talked about really finding places in the climate action plan where we could amplify and give credit to and expand some of the initiatives that PGCPS is already doing around like its farm to school program and student advisory committee, and just thinking how could those be repurposed and elevated to really incorporate considerations around school food waste and climate friendly food. Then we have a recommendation here around the Good Food Purchasing Program, which we discussed on the last call, a values-driven purchasing platform, and with an emphasis on really making sure that the food is appealing to students. Brianna had some really helpful feedback for us on that. So that's where we are right now. And I think if folks, take a look at that chart that we have and want to share any feedback, that would be great. We still have to summarize the responses from the survey results. We did like a quick look and tried to reflect some of the responses in there, like people who are asking for a meatless day of the week, for example. There were quite a few survey responses that suggested that. So we did incorporate that, but we have to do a more thorough review. How did I cover that? Pamela, Donald, Brianna, the others from the group? Anything you guys want to add? Or questions from anyone else?
I would just second, how important the feedback from Brianna on behalf of students is to this process and driving some of these ideas, because if the students, choose the food, but then begin to eat it and realize, there's a reason they don't want to eat it, and oftentimes that's the look of the food, and that's what we're learning a lot about. That is that big food waste issue, beyond if we have excess supply. So I think we're going to continue to really go deeper into this with the student feedback as we make plans. Brianna, did you want to add anything today?
I was thinking that in terms of the whole meatless Mondays, to go deeper into that, they could use different meat substitutes. Like for vegans, I know that they use jackfruit as a meat substitute. So I was thinking if they could implement something where they're making like a burger of some sort or some type of food out of jackfruit. I think that would really sit well with students because it would be on the healthier side.
Thank you. All right, Chloe, does it look like we can move on to the next subgroup? Did you want to add anything else?
No, I don't think so. Just that if folks have comments on where we are with that matrix so far, and you want to weigh in, to reach out to me, or I'm sure your message can get to me through Board Member Boozer Strother as well.
I see Delegate Lehman
Delegate
has
Lehman
her-
has a hand up.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to say briefly, and Chloe and others on here, I don't know if you're aware of it, but I brought this up in the stormwater conversation with Pamela and Marita earlier this week. And that is, I just got a letter, I would imagine most of you, if not all of you did too, from the county indicating that effective, I don't know what the date is, but it's pretty soon, it's around the corner, that we are going to be able to combine all of our food waste with our yard waste in that, for me, where I live in northern Prince George's County, it's a Monday pickup. And so it's just a basic, it's not the details. I think details are to follow with more for people who aren't that familiar with food composting, what can go in and what can't. They did have a pilot program in just a few areas, including my neighborhood, going back about 3 years ago. I don't know how successful it's been. It's kind of spread out. I know initially they had some trouble convincing people to get involved. In my area, I know from talking to neighbors, it was a matter of some people thought their households were too small to do it. But now this makes it really convenient to combine yard waste with food waste. And my comment to Pamela was, maybe hopefully there's a way PGCPS can learn from whatever the county has put together and maybe somehow even piggyback on it, work with the county with however it's arranged that that pickup had to change existing contracts to accommodate what's going to be obviously an increase in the volume of the material that's being picked up.
That's a great flag. Thank you. And we should follow up with the Department of the Environment just to make sure that we are understanding any implications that new program could have for PGCPS and the goals that we include here. So thank you.
Absolutely.
If there's no more questions, should we move on to materials and waste cycles?
Yeah, materials and waste cycles are combined with the food waste and food sourcing group. So the same, we're going to meet with Sarah Gillespie as a follow-up and combine the two. And so we discovered as we were working through this that as we kind of combined them for the actual research presentation, we're going to combine them for the subgroup as well. So we're going to do part 2 with her soon. And then I think we could segue right into Marita's report out on the stormwater meeting.
Yeah, sure. I have a couple slides that I summarized my notes on if y'all want to access those. But we had a strong panel. Stam Stefanelli from Facilities was on, as well as James Robeson and Karen Boulding, also from Schools Outdoor Learning. We had Ariel Trahan with Anacostia Watershed Society Treating and Teaching, Eric Jens with the CWP Watershed Partnership with the county on stormwater management, and Sadie Drescher with Chesapeake Bay Trust. And then, as Delegate Lehman mentioned, Pamela and I had a follow-up with Delegate Lehman this week. So essentially, we've grouped our priorities into categories. One being green infrastructure techniques, most of which schools are already doing. Planting trees through a couple of county programs. Building bioretention through the Clean Watership Partnership Program in certain schools. The county gets stormwater credits for this, for their MS4 permit through the Department of the Environment. As same with replacing pavement with impervious pavement, if that's possible, and also planting native plants instead of unprogrammed turf. And my second slide actually summarizes some of what people said in the survey. And a lot of these things were brought up in the survey. So that was kind of really valuable to see how much of this discussion that we had was echoed with what all the survey participants felt should happen. So essentially increasing all these partnerships that are already in place, streamlining approvals through facilities and DPI. Currently, we're going through these school projects one at a time, the treating and teaching, the Arbor Day, everyday projects, one at a time, kind of like fighting individual battles with individual reviewers. And that's no way to really get this done. We need to kind of package projects, have larger programs, streamline things so that we can make some really big, really have some bigger initiatives and get much more done. So another way to do that, as Sam Stefanelli suggested, is make more effective use of the planting programs that we already have by packaging a lot of these individual projects, as well as a system-wide site analysis of schools to identify areas that can be converted to natural areas instead of mowing. And then something we discussed with Delegate Lehman was accessing the Tree Solutions Now funding that's through the state's initiative to plant 5 million trees. A lot of that funding is going to be administered through the Chesapeake Bay Trust. So how can we access that for all the schools? And then certainly some maintenance considerations for reducing fossil fuels, as well as overall maintenance. This could actually lead to some volunteer and school personnel training in green management of natural areas. And then I don't know how many of you can access the survey responses, but I thought that was pretty enlightening. I just did a summary chart, pie chart of, reviewed a lot of the surveys, and it was pretty interesting what people feel should happen. Certainly more bioretention. That was the strongest statement from the surveys. Something like 23% of people who responded to the survey felt that the schools should have more bioretention for stormwater management. So the word has gotten out. That was pretty exciting. I guess converting land to native plants, a lot of people are wanting to see more of that, and plant more trees. So as well as develop new sites more sustainably. That was another one, and people had some really interesting thoughts on how that could happen through partnerships, through planning and zoning, getting more citizens involved in this. It was really pretty interesting set of comments. I'll stop there. Any questions?
Well, thank you, Marita. And seeing as there are no questions, we should move on. Kate and I are going to flip, and I'm going to give the legislative update next, which will be short. We determined that it would be best to wait until all of the other work groups have their documents ready before the legislative work group met, because we wanted to make sure we were incorporating in whatever was necessary from each of the topic-based sub-work groups. So we'll be trying to meet hopefully some point towards I don't know, we'll try and figure out what the best schedule is given the holidays coming up. I also make a note now that as the work groups are working, also if there are pending questions that we need to relay back, we do have a document that we are preparing as well, though it sounds like some people it sounds like that might also be working out on its own. And then I guess now I will turn it over to Kate Calzoni, who will wrap us up with the last three updates.
Okay. I'm yes, I'm unmuted. All right. So we have a couple slides. I'll show these real quick, and then Ms. Alveda Addison's going to help us with the equity and environmental justice report out. But first, I was not able, unfortunately, to attend this climate education and awareness subgroup. So I know Donald Bell, Michelle Smith, Pamela Boozer Struther, all of them were there. I'm not sure if Nathan was able to come or not, but so jump in after I give this general report out. So we identified, I think, 3 main priorities for climate education and awareness. One was ensuring that the curriculum was created and curated around the climate, the topic areas within the resolution for the work group, and in that way, and providing some hands-on, both experiential, social, and formal learning. You can see culture change within the school community and increase awareness. So things like recycling, equity, composting, building upgrades and maintenance, things like that. Getting all areas of the school staff involved, and then fostering that culture of learning from a climate awareness standpoint. Also ensuring that there's strong partnerships in the curriculum area, and that would be really important, both to support teachers, professional development for teachers, as well as I love the music, as well as the curriculum development. And so that's the first one. The second one is climate curriculum connection. So really ramping up on local case studies opportunities for hands-on learning. The UN climate program simulation was mentioned, shared lessons learned across staff, across schools, across students. So, so there's really this idea of learning and growing and having a growth mindset together. Also, student-driven curriculum was a priority, both in the surveys as well as, and I should say, in the student forum, curriculum was the #1 issue for students and the #1 priority for the climate change action plan. So, leveraging green teams, leveraging, the AP science courses and the social studies courses and all of that in order to get students involved in the curriculum development and invested in the way that we're teaching students across PGCPS. Also, the plan should be supporting teacher to professional development. We don't want to put it on the teachers to have to build new curriculum, but do it in a standardized and dynamic way, and leverage things. I think that green nudges was mentioned. I don't know a lot about that, but that was talked about in the subgroup, as well as the Kerwin blueprint, and making sure that technology was at the forefront of the curriculum discussion as well. And then the third priority is the intersection with business opportunities and building in business and career connections with our local businesses, our utility companies, and then the career and technical education programs that are available across PGCPS, and promoting those and ensuring that those are well integrated into both the curriculum and the opportunities for students across the school system. There was an idea of climate curriculum ambassadors. And the way that I read these notes was it wasn't just one person, but it was principals, it was students, it was teachers, but really having all schools have ambassadors up and down the hierarchy to ensure that everyone is leveraging opportunities as they come. And then you'll see this in another subgroup report out, the idea of a sustainability and resilience officer helping spearhead a lot of the effort behind the climate curriculum. So I'll pause for a quick second and see if anyone wants to add anything, or if I missed anything, or if anyone has any questions.
Hi, Kate, this is Jamie. Thank you so much for sharing. One thing that I failed to mention for item 3A as an alpha would be the CEWD, which is the Center for Energy Workforce Development. And we've had an opportunity to partner with that group via our utility partnership, CEWD, Center for Energy Workforce Development.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anything else that we're missing? Any questions or comments on these overarching priorities for climate awareness and education? Marita.
Yeah, Kate, I was just wondering, who would the sustainability and resilience officer, like where would that position live?
That's a great question.
Who would they report to? Because I know facilities has a sustainability person.
We talked about this a lot in our equity and environmental justice work group. So I'm going to let Pamela talk a little bit about the context behind that, but I think it would be a new position. Is that right, Pamela?
Certainly, from that global perspective in the school system, that would make it a new position, across all divisions, in terms of the mission of the role. I mean, I hesitate to define that. Dr. Goldson certainly is tracking our work carefully and recognizes the value of having, that sort of oversight of the whole system to be able to monitor and track our, carbon reductions. And, in many ways, at the end of the day, this also becomes a budget, hopefully budget savings issue on that maintenance and long-term operations side. So, and then of course the grant and funding opportunities that we know will drive the starting up of this. So there's some different aspects, skill aspects that would be needed in this division. So I like I think right now we're at the concept, of that we need people, we need high level folks dedicated to this, folks with experience. So Marita, did you have any other questions or comments? I was going to make one more comment.
Nope.
Okay. Yeah, I did want to note the timeliness of an announcement that PGCPS made that the school system received the Exelon Green Lab grants to create STEM labs of the future in 2 of our high schools. So Northwestern High School and Potomac High School will have these green labs, and these are $50,000 grants for hands-on learning in the future of environmentally sustainable careers and opportunities. So I thought that was really timely that came out this week. There's more to come, unless Jamie or someone else, Donald or Jamie, happens to know more about this grant opportunity. But I think it's another great example of the curriculum partnerships that are ahead for us in PGCPS.
That's great news, Board Member Boozer Strother. I haven't received the details of that grant just yet. So I'm excited though, because it's, as you said, it's quite timely, and we have a wealth of students that have done quite well in STEM competitions. And so it's just forging the way for STEM careers. And hopefully we can have a lot of persons from our school district to continue to make a whole lot of gains and accomplishments in this area. So thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, and Jamie, thank you for all the partnerships that you've managed over the years. I mean, it's definitely educated me, and I think so many of us in the work group, about what our students have been doing, and that the corporate sector is certainly looking, to their future workforce and looking at PGCPS. So thank you.
So definitely a team effort. Thank everybody that's a part of the team. Thank you.
Absolutely. There will be more to share. I was fortunate enough to work with the William Schmidt Center and the Science Office to assist those schools in structuring their narratives. And they're both utilizing greenhouse spaces that exist at the school as part of the Green Lab initiative. And both of the narratives include, food and aspects of food to some degree as well. And so I look forward to being able to share more about that. These are targeted at programs where students can learn after the school day and really have hands-on innovative opportunities to engage in the STEM work with a focus on careers and sustainability.
Yeah, that's great, Donald. Thank you so much to you and the team for working on this and working with the individual high schools. That's really exciting. Can't wait to hear more.
Yes, yeah, can't wait to share more as the teams at the high schools. They're the superstars. We're just supporting, but I can't wait to be able to share more as they gear up and ramp up to begin the initiatives.
So it sounds like there's a lot of really fun, interesting, and exciting opportunities and things happening across across PGCPS that we can leverage. What we'll do with these three priorities is start building them out into a narrative, and we'll be looking to you all to help with that. So it was a great subgroup. Thank you for stepping in, Board Member Boozer Strother, when I wasn't able to. And we'll go to the next one, which was equity and environmental justice. We had a really robust conversation around this, and Ms. Alveda Addison is going to help us walk through it.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for including me on this work group. I'm really excited. We have a very productive meeting, and it seems like we have a lot of similarities with the climate awareness group, work group. And so basically what we did is we met, and excuse me, I'm still at work, so you're going to hear my computer in the background. I'm sorry. We discussed our priorities, which include public education around equity and environmental justice. We want to build the capacity with general public focus on health and environment, and parent education, which is really very important if we're going to get the support. We also want to develop partnerships with state and county partners and environmental NGOs, CCAN, Sierra Club. Those are some of the groups. Also the environmental justice groups like the NAACP. And I'm not going to chop up the name of the organization beside that because I do not know Spanish. But academia, research institutions like the University of Maryland and Bowie State University. And then of course the places of worship. We also want to incorporate curriculum, which will be part of it will be student driven, and we want to include professional development for teachers. And there's a case study at Largo High School that we want to make people aware of. We want to we want to make sure that we include overburdened communities, that we talk about the EJ screen tools, and that we focus on areas in terms of what people can relate to, like transportation and air quality. The equity considerations that we want to include are the, of course, the Prince George's County Public Schools educational equity policy, the Indigenous Peoples policy, and we really want to include an equity liaison that will help guide the messages and engage and solicit input from disenfranchised stakeholders and difficult to reach communities. We definitely want that person to be considered as a public school equity coach. And that person will provide the oversight to make sure that the promises are kept from the various representatives, whether it be political or community organizations. So I hope that summarized everything.
No, you did a great job. I mean, we definitely identified the need to have some standard terminology when it comes to equity, environmental justice, sustainability, resiliency, things like that. Leverage the county plan for consistent understanding and terminology as well. And then this is where we were thinking about the equity liaisons and the sustainability and resiliency officer, or whatever it would be called at the end, and incorporating that to be a kind of the one that spearheads the implementation effort of this plan. Any questions? Or as you can see, there's a lot of overlap, and I'm sure there's going to be some overlap with all the other subcommittees. We did love if you haven't looked at the county plan, the draft plan, they have equity considerations in every single topic area in the plan. And we all loved that idea and wanted to kind of mimic that in the PGCPS plan. Questions, comments? Okay. So the last subcommittee we had was communication and outreach. We did not have this meeting because I think similar to probably the legislative strategy, we wanted to see if there was what was coming out of the plan. But I did pull some implementation steps from the county plan that I thought were relevant for communication and outreach related to the PGCPS plan. So number one, it was develop a comprehensive and inclusive stakeholder engagement plan. Number two, make sure you have the technology and the platform to be able to share resources and report on the PGCPS CCAP, the implementation of it, how it's going, what the impact is, how our metrics are going, and then ensure cross-sector public outreach and messaging to make sure that we're building awareness at the general public level, and then making sure we're identifying and leveraging opportunities to build climate resiliency across the school system and the communities around them. And then finally, this idea of potentially an advisory committee or some sort of governance group that would assist in the adoption and implementation of the plan. Any comments or questions, Delegate Lehman?
Thank you. Just going back to the justice and equity outline, I wanted to make sure that the transportation piece, where is it? Transportation is somewhere in that list, that includes not only access to transit, but also walkability and pedestrian safety, because that is lacking, far more. Studies have shown it far more in lower income communities and low income communities of color, where there just aren't safe places to walk, and people walk in unsafe areas and rights of way and cross, where there are no crossings and that kind of thing, because they have no other options. So walkability is, as long as that incorporates that, that's really important.
Great point. Yes. Any other questions or comments on these three areas of the plan? And David, we can make sure that we're that all of this is sent out to everyone, and then again, we'll be building off of this and having to kind of put some meat on the bones for the narrative over the next 2 to 3 weeks. Okay, back to you, Joseph. Oh, we have a couple more questions. Chloe.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing this. And I just wanted to draw out another question, another connection with our food priorities, because I think it's just good to acknowledge that school meals are one of the most direct points of leverage to mitigate racial health disparities that we have, and are a super important point of access to nutrition for students that rely on free and reduced price meals. And right now, school meals are free in the county due to temporary federal waivers, but that's expected to go away. Some schools are eligible for the community eligibility provision, but others not. So just want to lay out that that connection, given that school meals are in that other part of the plan, that from an environmental justice and equity perspective, that access piece ties in here as well. Thanks.
That's a great point. I was saying that, but you couldn't hear me. Board Member Boozer Strother, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. And just such great work from the subgroups. And I was thinking about our conversation about Dr. David Reese, who is the director of the Equity and Excellence Department in PGCPS, and that I think he's going to be able to provide, really help us ensure that we've touched on, sort of bring it all together, and touch on everything. And I think he's going to be a great resource to us as we refine this. And And then also I wanted to note, I think that that we have particularly unique role that we might be able to bring to the county action plan. If you've read it, one of the very first recommendations is the build internal capacity to plan and implement climate action. And the county is going to launch an annual professional development series for everyone in agency leadership. So I would say that would, PGCPS, including the agency, county leaders, county council members, every elected official. They're going to hold the Prince George's County Climate Ready Leadership Summit, and they'll be developing this pretty quickly into 2022. Of leaders from businesses, municipalities, and all sectors of county government, and all the elected officials, as I noted. And I think that as we look to our contributions in the in this outreach aspect of our plan, that we should look at where we have a unique role for that annual education of the entire county. So I just wanted to call that out as an opportunity for us.
Great, I'm capturing it on a couple of my slides as well. So that would be great. I would love to see what that looks like. Okay, anything else? All right. Back to you, Joseph.
I suppose at this point, we can look to close out the meeting. Just a reminder that there will be a few more sub-work groups scheduled, probably before the holidays, but if not, soon thereafter. Our next regular work group meeting is on January 19th, and then we'll begin sharing our work with the various committees. And that's all I had, so I'll turn it over to Board Member Boozer Strother to close this out.
Yeah, thank you so much, Joseph, and thanks to everyone for all your hard work. We're beginning to see this plan come to life. I know that Kate, Joseph, David, Valerie, and I will probably be meeting very soon to advance the format of how we're going to move all of these recommendations into the format. And like I said, the county has generously offered our access to their formatting ideas. And so we'll be taking that step. So watch for, again, I think we've been doing a little more email, watch for more email, move some things along, possibly set, some sub timeline goals for everyone as we, for folks who find that the holiday break is when you can do more work, that's fantastic. But if you need the break and then want to, really get back in fresh in the first week of January, we'll certainly be accommodating that as well. So I just want to wish everyone happy holidays and a restful break. And again, thinking about, this news of that this COVID wave is beginning again. Just want to, everyone stay safe and keep promoting PGCPS's vaccine clinics and help our school system stay open. So just appreciate all of you and, look forward to seeing you all again in January.
All right, thank you also. Have a safe holiday.
Happy holidays.
Thanks all. Happy holidays.
Yes, take care, everyone.
Happy holidays.
Thank everyone. Happy holidays. Stay safe.